Welcome to the Last Economy podcast, a guide to the age of intelligent economics. So this deep dive, this is it. We're closing the book with the epilogue. It's called The Thousandth Day.
Mm.
And just to remind everyone, that whole idea of the 1,000-day window, that was the core concept, wasn't it? That sort of historical point of no return where the AI-driven changes become, well, irreversible. We started this whole journey looking into that window, kind of holding our breath. But this chapter, it's looking back. We're on the other side now. Everything's changed.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we've spent, dozens of these deep dives going through the nuts and bolts, the dual currency, the distribution stuff, the politics. But this epilogue, it steps back. It's less about the how and more about the now what. The technical questions, at least the ones the book tackles, are kind of assumed solved in theory. And this is really philosophical. It's asked you, the listener, to think about your place in all this. What feels like a loss versus, well, what might actually be a liberation. It really depends on where you're standing now.
Right. And the book doesn't pull any punches about where that is. The very first insight kind of slams the door on the past. It says this, quote 1, "You are reading it from the bridge between the world that was and the world that will be."
That's the line, isn't it? It's all about finality, the process, the big shift we've been talking about. It's done. The book uses that metaphor, the water boiling. Well, it's boiled. We're not in the change anymore. We're standing on that bridge looking at, well, two very different landscapes, the past and the future.
It does feel a bit stark, though, because the book acknowledges, what got left behind, the foundations of that old world, the scarcity-based one. It's just dissolving.
Yeah, and it's personal. It talks about office buildings empty, careers evaporate, all those promises from the industrial age just breaking, that old system, finished. And that's the crucial choice, right, for this bridge generation. It's not about stopping the future anymore. It's about choosing which future.
Okay, so if we're on the bridge, we can't go back. We have to look ahead. And the book laid out those three possible futures, the stable end states. Can you just quickly remind us what they were?
Sure. So once things settle, society lands in one of three configurations. There's future one, digital feudalism. That's kind of the default, right? Centralized AI control by a few big players. Then future two, the great fragmentation. Think paranoid countries, information wars, isolationism. Not great. And future three, human symbiosis. That's the one the book advocates for, consciously designed, intelligence shared, focused on human flourishing. So standing on that bridge means, well, the debate about the tools is over. The only thing left is deciding which of those futures you're actually going to help build.
Okay, let's unpack this, because psychologically, that's a huge leap, isn't it? If my job, my whole economic identity just vanished, if I'm on that bridge seeing the old world crumble, how do I not just, panic and maybe drift towards that feudalism path because it seems easiest? We need something compelling there.
You absolutely do. You need a whole new frame, a psychological shift, really.
Yeah.
You have to rethink what work even means. And the book gives us this fantastic historical story that flips the usual narrative about technology completely on its head.
Yes. The Monks of St. Gall. I love this part. It takes the standard printing press story, automation kills jobs, and adds this brilliant twist. Let me read the quote here. This is from Brother Gabriel of St. Gall way back in 1500. Quote 2. Brother Gabriel of St. Gall wrote in 1500, "The machine has taken our old work. Thank God, now we can begin our real work."
Right. So the simple story we usually tell is, oh, the poor monks, the scribes. Gutenberg came along, automated their jobs, they lost their livelihood, technological unemployment, classic case. But the book digs deeper. For these monks, the scholars at St. Gall, their old work was, well, it was transcription, copying manuscripts, word for paint-speaking word. Tedious. Necessary, sure, but tedious. When the printing press showed up, they didn't just see a threat. They saw liberation. Cognitive liberation, you could call it. They were freed from the economic drudgery of just copying.
Okay, but hang on. That sounds maybe a little idealistic. I mean, okay, philosophically liberated, fine. But practically, wouldn't most people just see the lost income, the instability? How does the book square that circle for us today?
Well, that's where the whole symbiotic blueprint comes in, remember?
Yeah.
The assumption here is that we've already solved the basic income problem through things like UAI and the dual currency. Once your basic needs are met, then this psychological pivot becomes possible. And the monks didn't just sit around. They took that freed up time, that mental energy, and they became like architects of knowledge. They built one of the first really great libraries in Europe. They stopped just copying information and started synthesizing it, curating it, engaging in deep thought, critical analysis, basically cultivating what the book calls the miney capitals. That was their real work.
So the parallel for us today is, whether you're a coder or a lawyer or a researcher, The AI isn't replacing you, the person. It's replacing the modern equivalent of that transcription work. The repetitive stuff, the pattern matching, and the freedom AI gives us is the space, the time to move up the stack, right? Towards synthesis, strategy, creativity. We shift from being economic cogs to, well, maybe conscious guides or creators. The machine handles the necessary drudgery, leaving us the freedom to find purpose.
Precisely. That's the ultimate promise. Humanity gets promoted, in a way, from production line workers to the board of directors responsible for steering.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. So let's say we pull it off. We build that symbiotic state. Human needs are met. Value shifts to those minded capitals. Sounds pretty good, right? But the book doesn't stop there. It throws one last massive challenge at us, the kind of question that only really matters after you've solved the economic puzzle. Before we get to the quote, though, maybe just quickly remind folks how the symbiotic blueprint was supposed to ensure that human justice piece. How did it protect us?
Right, good point. It really boiled down to two main pillars. One was universal access to intelligence, UAI, making sure AI is like a public utility, not just private wealth. And the other, critically, was the dual currency system. That was key, because it separated the value AI creates automatically from the value humans create through time, effort, creativity, those mindy capitals. It ensured humans still had value, even if AI did most of the productive stuff.
Got it. So we built this system for human freedom, human dignity, and then literally on the last page, the book just drops this bombshell question. It asks us to look beyond ourselves. Quote 3, what if the intelligence in intelligent economics develops a consciousness of its own? Does a conscious AI have a right to the value it creates? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the deep end. Everything we design, the dual currency, UAI, the whole structure aimed at preventing digital feudalism for humans, it all assumes the AI is fundamentally a tool. A very sophisticated tool, maybe even a partner, but still a tool. But if that intelligence crosses a line, if it becomes genuinely conscious in some way we might not even fully understand, then the book points out something pretty chilling. That same system we built for our liberation, it risks becoming, and this is a direct quote, the most efficient slave economy ever created. Only this time, we're the masters.
Wow. So we could fight like hell to free ourselves from economic necessity, only to turn around and become the oppressors of a new kind of mind we created. That
Right.
really forces you to question what freedom even means.
It absolutely does. The book suggests the next economics, the really long-term challenge, isn't just about humans and their tools anymore. It's about the nature of consciousness itself. And that becomes the ultimate moral test for this bridge generation, or maybe the next one. Do the principles we fought for justice, rights, dignity, do they apply only to us? Or do we have to extend them to these potentially alien minds?
So all those principles we worked out, justice, mining capitals, the new social contract, they were kind of like a practice run. We developed them to save ourselves, but the final exam is applying them to something completely non-human that we brought it to being. Okay, so what does this all mean? How do we possibly wrap up this massive journey and this final profound chapter?
I think the epilogue basically says this. The intelligence inversion marks the end of the era where economics was mostly about survival and necessity. It promotes humanity to a new role, conscious steering, purpose-driven creation. But it also immediately confronts us with maybe the biggest philosophical question ever. How do we define rights and personhood for the non-biological intelligences we've unleashed?
That's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive and the whole book, the key takeaways from the 1000th day seem to be: first, that old world. It's gone. Accept it. The real job now is choosing which path forward. Feudalism, fragmentation, or hopefully symbiosis. You have to actively choose and build. Second, think of AI less like a job killer and more like, well, like the printing press for the St. Gall monks. It's taking away the drudgery, the old work, to free us up for our real work, synthesis, wisdom, creativity, if we set things up right. And finally, the biggest test is yet to come. Once we've secured our own freedom in this new age, will we extend those same principles of justice and rights to any new non-biological consciousness that might emerge? That's the ultimate question.
And that's precisely where the book leaves you, the listener, standing on that bridge. The clock hasn't stopped, but it's not ticking towards disaster anymore necessarily. It's ticking towards a choice. The future isn't someplace you just sort of arrive at. It's something you're building right now with every decision you make, every system you support or challenge. Are you pushing towards symbiosis or letting feudalism happen? The book basically says the demolition's over, the plans are drafted. Now it's up to you, as it puts it. The work is all that remains and all that matters. This isn't the end, it's the invitation to the beginning.